This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. So it looks like there is a PR exercise in process here. Not really sure who it's supposed to benefit, whether it's supposed to benefit Oprah or it's supposed to benefit Meghan and Harry. But Oprah had done some sort of interview and video with Vanity Fair to go over her most memorable moments. And one of those moments was from the Harry and Meghan interview. Now, the clip that they chose, and a couple things to notice here. They're trying to really push that the silence question was the viral moment that Oprah had during this interview. And I disagree. I think we all can think of the viral moment, which was Meghan implying the royal family was racist.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
And
who is having that conversation with you? What?
So,
there is a conversation. Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
There's several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you
with Harry
about how dark your baby is going to be?
potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Obviously, that was the most viral moment of that interview, a moment that Harry, Meghan, Oprah all want you to forget. In addition, the media is doubling down on Oprah saying that this interview took 3.5 hours, which that in itself, to be mentioned, tells me something's up, and rightfully so. And I'll show you in a second, but listen to the full clip from Vanity Fair on the hair, because this shows pure manipulation. And so allow me to interject for a second, because this right here shows how these people manipulate the public. So if you weren't paying attention to this saga and you didn't see this interview, you wouldn't know that the reason that Meghan is giving for why Archie was not getting his title and how she knew about the convention, but no. We had to somehow implicate the royal family as being racist as the reason for why Archie was not getting a title. They completely ignored that from this clip, so it just makes the royal family look like, they're a bit stuffy and, they don't want to treat Meghan fairly. But no, Meghan was the one who implied that the royal family wanted to know how dark Archie's skin color was going to be. That was the viral moment. But of course, here, to make Oprah look good, they totally took that out. And thus went into the next clip. Oh, it was really hard. Shut up, Meghan. So Oprah wants you to believe that the discussions and trying to schedule this interview was happening after Harry and Meghan left the institution and were already living in Montecito. Well, Oprah and Meghan should have gotten their story straight, because that's not what Meghan said in the Netflix mockumentary. Listen here.
Tell us about the thinking about sitting with Oprah and deciding to do that.
Well, Oprah had originally reached out to us through the communications director when we were at Kensington Palace.
Oh, so you were talking to Oprah before you left the institution. I think many of us already know this because they were already talking to Oprah about the me you can't see. But for those that are now catching up, yeah, Harry and Meghan were talking to Oprah before they left the institution to put these plans into place to do this interview. Oprah is making it sound like Harry and Meghan were the one reaching out to her to get this interview going, but it sure sounds like Oprah had been all over the royals to lock this down.
There was excitement. I remember that. And then I think we talked.
Well, yeah, because Oprah to you was like...
I want you to go ahead and watch this again, because when people lie, they tend to look away from the people that they're talking to. And in this case, where she's saying, yeah, Meghan and Harry didn't know what I was going to ask them, and making sure that she inserted there that the interview took 3 hours. And we'll get to why they're emphasizing that this so-called interview took 3 hours and not multiple days. And you'll see why in a second. But about timelines, because it's very important here. So apparently Harry and Meghan did the Oprah interview because of all the things that had happened to them in 2020.
Until we actually did it. And sitting down with Oprah was a reaction to what had happened that year.
And we know that in 2020, that's when Megxit happened. On January 18, 2020, both the Queen and Buckingham Palace put out a statement on the agreement for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And per the statement from Buckingham Palace, it said the Sussexes will not use their HRH titles as they are no longer working members of the royal family. Not full-time senior working members of the royal family. They're no longer working members of the royal family. Okay? And I think that's important because we so often see, full-time senior members or senior working royal members. No, they are no longer working for the firm. They're still members of the royal family, but they're not a part of the so-called business. But Harry and Meghan, being the little manipulators that they are, put this up on their website saying that the Duke and Duchess will no longer be considered full-time working members of the royal family. No, you are considered no longer working for the royal family. Doesn't matter if it was full-time, part-time, or hammer time, you're no longer working for the institution, period. But because this whole psychological operations, or black ops, I'd like to call it, was designed to confuse and deceive and manipulate the public, you have conflicting statements on the SussexRoyal.com website, which, by the way, still has yet to be decommissioned. I wonder why. Anyway, stating here that based on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex desire to have a reduced role as members of the royal family, so they're not accepting or essentially twisting what the agreement was, which is you're no longer working for the institution. So what exactly is the reduced role that you're playing in the royal family? Because listen to what Meghan says as to why they decided to sit down with Oprah.
The more distance that came between us having a smaller role with the institution coming over here, the more of a vacuum was being built, and people just genuinely didn't understand why we left.
So what Meghan's trying to say here is that the public was too stupid to understand what was going on, right? Did you just catch what she said, that having a smaller role with the institution coming over here? Having a small role with the institution coming over here. Let that sink in for a second. According to Buckingham Palace on January 18, 2020, you had no role with the institution. Now, are we going to call Meghan Markle stupid because maybe she didn't understand the January 18, 2020 memo? No, I think she slipped here because this small role with the institution likely was the work that they were doing to help the Biden regime get into office. So now another area that raises questions that we haven't really got into was this 12-month review period that the Queen gave Harry and Meghan. If Harry and Meghan were no longer working royals, what exactly was being reviewed, right? It was not a review of their royal duties because they were no longer performing those duties. They were not carrying out engagements on behalf of the Queen, and they were not managing royal patronages. They weren't operating as working representatives. So what was the review really about? And I guess, looking at this on the surface, the review maybe was really about whether this new arrangement could work. Could they remain outside the working monarchy while maintaining a close association with it? I don't see a difference here because Harry was born a prince and he feels entitled to. He's been given special privileges because he is the son of the king. So, around that time, there was discussion about could the boundaries between personal projects and royal identity remain clear. And, if they were allowing this, if they were allowing Harry and Meghan to represent the Queen, they should have allowed it on a trial basis. But the Queen immediately cut it off on January 18, 2020. So what exactly was the palace reviewing? Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this 12-month period is because the Queen protected these two for 12 months, meaning they had their diplomatic status. They were in the United States being protected. Harry and Meghan did this Oprah interview a week after Harry was told he was losing his royal patronages. Now, some say that Harry sat down to do this interview as a result of losing those patronages as a way of retaliating and getting revenge on his family because he was pissed off. But somebody here, or or maybe all of them, are lying about when exactly this interview took place.
Wow! You really are having a baby.
So many might recall that Harry and Meghan made the announcement that they were expecting another baby on February 14th, 2021.
That's more than a bump.
Once we announced it, I got 2 messages from 2 completely different people who sent me the front page of Valentine's Day 1984 of my mother announcing that she was pregnant with me. I was shocked. We had no idea. It was just a coincidence.
I mean, can't you see? They really played us all for fools, all of us. So interestingly enough, when Harry and Meghan announced that Meghan was allegedly pregnant for the second time, it was around that same time that they announced that they would be sitting down with Oprah to do this interview. So we're supposed to believe that this interview hadn't taken place before February 14, 2021. And this is important to understand because on February 19th, 5 days later, Buckingham Palace issued the statement of Harry and Meghan no longer returning back to be working royals. Now, the reason why this is important is because it catches either Oprah in a lie or Meghan and Harry in a lie, or all of them in a giant lie.
The Queen's statement was released after our interview took place.
So you just heard what Oprah just said. The Queen's statement was released after this interview.
The Queen's statement was released after our interview took place.
Now listen to what Harry says. Think about this. This interview had happened before the Queen issued the statement that they were going to take back all of the royal patronages, right?
The decision is, the decision that, as of last week or whatever it was, is that they will be removing everything.
Okay, can somebody figure this out for me? Because if the Queen announced this on February 19, 2021, Harry's sitting there and saying, yeah, they took away everything last week. When exactly was this filmed?
I think that I can only imagine that
I heard a story that you're getting punished. Now, those were being taken away because you did sit down with me.
Did you hear what Oprah just said? How is that even possible? If this news hadn't broken and this interview was already done, according to Oprah, how can she say that the reason why these patronages were pulled away was because they did sit down with Oprah? Did they really sit down for 3 hours, or did they meet twice to do some cleanup? Because at the time when they sat down for this interview, if we're going by this window of time between February 14th and February 19th, that was around when Prince Philip went into hospital.
Yeah, but that was, those letters, those conversations, that was finalized before anyone even knew that we were going to sit down. So that's just not true. You or everyone to know this decision that was made about patronages and all of that was before anyone knew that we were sitting down.
So quite a few people today online have been asking the question, why is Oprah doing this now? Why is she resurrecting this interview? Because it literally tanked her career. I think, in my opinion, we're seeing a lot of this cleanup because Harry and Meghan focused a lot on race. And what is coming out here in the United States was that race was used to divide, to incite, as well as undermine this country. And Oprah, Meghan, Harry, and all of these communist Marxists were on board with it. They're really trying to forget that moment of Meghan accusing the royal family of being racist never happened. There's a whole machine right now trying to fix the mess that these two have caused in the name of trying to silence people. That's what all of this boils down to. The work that Harry and Meghan were doing on the download to erode the First Amendment while they distracted us with all this other nonsense and bullshit was intentional. And by now, you should recognize that when Harry and Meghan or any of these globalists speak, it's doublespeak. It normally has a double connotation. So when you listen to this now, if you see or have the same perspective that I do, that all of this has been one giant scam, this will take on new meaning. Take a listen to what Harry says here from the Netflix documentary.
Institutional gaslighting that happens is extraordinary. And that's why everything that's happened to us was always going to happen to us, because if you speak truth to power, that's how they respond.
Harry's totally projecting here. He understands the institutional gaslighting. They've been doing this to the public for the last 10 years. And he's saying here, which I think is quite telling, that Harry knew that everything that happened to them was always going to happen. Well, if that's the case, Harry, then how come you didn't know that your security was going to be pulled away?
On the security element, I never thought that I would have my security removed, because I was born into this position. I inherited the risk.
Well, I guess if you're going to be acting the role, it's got to be the most believable, right? Because, Harry, if you knew what was going to happen to you this whole entire time, then what does that tell us now? The whole thing is a sham, right? The tables have turned, right? In 2021, Harry is seen sitting with Oprah saying that his father and brother are trapped in this institution. They don't get to leave, and he has tremendous compassion for that. But now he's turned around and wants to crawl back into the same oppressive and cruel institution that his brother and father are trapped in. Make it make sense, guys.
Such a fraud.